I've always been an alchemist, transmuting what remains after destruction, creating something new, hopefully infusing the innocence, love, and light that was lost, building with broken shards that make my hands bleed. Loss doesn't just come from death, but from what was supposed to be and never will. That feeling of grief swells, and then the almost unthinkable question hits. What next? Welcome to the obliterated place for all the brokenhearted, a space dedicated to creating something from the unrecognizable remnants of loss in its many forms, a place to witness one another's grief and choose to honor grief through our actions, big and small. I'm Kaye Steinsapir. Thanks for joining us today. Hello, and welcome back to the Obliterated Place. I am your host, Kaye Steinsapir, accompanied today by my rabbi, Rabbi Sher, and good friend. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. I'm glad I can be here.
I mean, I'm so grateful because I know how incredibly busy you are under the best of times and currently with the fire rehabilitation, rebuilding process, getting back to our synagogue in the Palisades, Kehillat Israel, and trying to get back home personally. It's all just a tremendous amount for everyone. So thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
Well, I could talk to you for like 3 days. So of course, we don't have that much time. So I will just give you an idea of the main topics I want to try to hit with you before we suddenly find ourselves at the end of an hour, which can easily happen to us. Couple things, because I feel like we have some really important topics. Number one being the experience with the Palisades fire and what it's been like for you, being someone who's personally affected by the fire, who lost your home, parenting, 3 young children, and being a husband, and at the same time being like just a source of support for an entire community that has been obliterated, literally and figuratively. I mean, major props to you. I don't know how you do it, but I want to talk about that. Secondly, I would love to talk about the situation in which we, as the Jewish people, have found ourselves in the time kind of since October 7th. I think we all are going through our own loss process, and obviously kind of everything has changed, and there are just so many challenges around being Jewish and around so many different issues that have arisen in this new world. And then thirdly, I want to try to talk about something that has been so meaningful for me personally and for our family, is something I talked about with my most recent guest, who will be airing this week, named Colin Campbell. And Colin is married to a Jewish woman. They lost their 2 teenagers, Ruby and Hart. And a big part of Colin's book, called Finding the Words, is about how Jewish rituals around grief and loss really have helped him. Colin is not Jewish, but Gail is. And I just find that topic so interesting and helpful for people, even who aren't Jewish. Yeah. All right.
Well, look, they all kind of dovetail into each other, right? Because the first piece is that I'm in love with the Jewish tradition. And I'm in love with the Jewish tradition for countless reasons, but more than anything else, because a tradition is something that holds people together. The Jewish tradition's understanding of loss isn't just about grief of losing a loved one. It's a huge, major part of it. But the way I see it is that Judaism really understands grief to be like a series of pockets, metaphorical pockets, but also like pockets. When you're walking around and something's in your pocket, it doesn't mean that you're holding whatever it is in your arms for everyone to see at all times. But when your hand goes in your pocket and you feel that item, or even just knowing that it's there, it physiologically changes the way we carry ourselves.
Right.
And so Judaism understands that when we lose someone or something, the fires, et cetera, and we can get into all that, that it isn't something that says, okay, now you're sad, now it's time to heal, now it's time to be healed. Judaism doesn't disrespect the notion of love that way. When you love someone, when you love a place, when you find your space, you're going to forever miss it. The difference is, how do we miss it? What do we do with that? And so the first is that when devastation happens, our tradition has a structure that says you're not going to be able to think no matter how hard you want to think, so don't think. And we'll start from the first moments and spread out from there. During the first days of Shiva, the first week, we're told this is supposed to be a holy pause. Do nothing. Don't think straight. Don't worry about washing your hair. Don't even worry about sitting in a normal chair. Sit on the ground if you need to. Do nothing. And let people do for you. Literally let them tell you when to stand up, when to go eat. Let them bring the food to you. Let them remind you that it's time for bed. Let other people do the most basic human functions. This is built into the tradition. Yeah. You're supposed to be like incapable for the week. But the truth is that doesn't last a week.
Yeah.
That often lasts longer. At the end of Shiva, you're supposed to go outside and feel the fresh air that tells you, okay, I can step outside. I can't do everything. I can step outside, which moves into Shloshim, the first 30 days, in which you're still supposed to walk around the world with torn clothing, with sadness in our eyes, with an inability to guarantee that we can function. We can try to function, and the people around us are supposed to know we're dipping our toe in the water.
Right.
We're trying to function. We take our time, and we're going to fail. In those first 30 days, we're not supposed to be productive. We're supposed to be trying to be productive. And then we know it's not going to happen. And after those 30 days, we say the entire first year, you're walking around, you're still carrying the weight. But you're also trying to get back into the groove. And it takes a full calendar year before you realize, okay, I can make it to a birthday. I can make it to a holiday. It hurts, but I can make it. And after that full year, what do we say? We say we have a yurt site. Every year on the anniversary of, we know birthdays are going to hurt. We know that you're suddenly going to feel the whole weight of it in your pockets again.
Yeah.
So we're not going to pretend that you're now healed. It comes in waves and it's carried in pockets, and that keeps coming back. And that coming back is what makes us human. And the real teaching of our tradition is that memory is what happens when mourning is matured, right? When our mourning matures into our memory, then we get to honor the people we loved. We get to remember the places that we loved. But it gives us at least a year to do it. And any tradition that understands psychology that well, thousands of years before psychology understood psychology that well, is a tradition that I want to celebrate and I want to uphold and I want to bring to others. And so when you say, you've done for community, this community has done for my family. And we are a community, and there is a role for so many different people to play. And that Shiva is that first note. Anyone can help a person in that moment of devastation. And the ripple effect of that love is profound.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that something you said is about how grief and mourning is active. And one of the things you said is how we, instead of hugs, it's stories about them, it's memories. But what really stayed with me so much is the action of seeing the world through their eyes, because Molly saw the world in such a unique way, in a beautiful way. And
yeah, she did.
She did. She really did. She
sometimes silly, sometimes serious.
Yeah.
She read the room.
Yeah, yeah. And she just cared about every little thing, every little creature, every little person, she was very sensitive to especially something or someone that would be overlooked. She was very sensitive to that, as you know. And so it's like, I feel like I wasn't myself, like it wasn't in my nature to be that way as much. And it has become more in my nature because of her. And I think other people who are inspired by her also see the world more in her eyes because of the active sharing of her story and talking about how she would panic if, there's an insect in the house and somebody went to like swat a fly. It's like, we have to, it has a life. Like, this is a being. It has to go outside. She couldn't even bear when I dropped off at summer camp, all the kids were fishing. And she said, no, I'll just wait here. She doesn't even want to watch them hook fish and throw them back. It's like, I'll just wait here by the tree. I'm good. You don't have to stay with me, Mom. But, that was her.
Well, and one of the ways that I've always understood, our prayer for loss that we say each year on anniversaries is the mourner's Kaddish. But it's designed for mourners, but it's not for mourning. It's not a prayer of sadness. It's a prayer that says the person that we're saying their name helps us to see the beauty of the world around us, right? It declares the beauty in the world, and then it demands peace for the world. And when we say their name for it, we're using their name to be the instigation of blessing. I understand that to be our tradition understands that to show the respect and appreciation of the love we experience when someone's alive, their memory becomes that motivator. And that's it. It is a reciprocal sense of that love, but it's deepening the notion of how much respect that you have for the way she loved the world. And when we think about it in that notion, if you respect how much she loved the world, then the whole world needs to know how to love that way. And it becomes a real motivator. Yeah. And, we were talking before, I believe that in some strange way, that means that love is kinesthetic, right? Love doesn't dissipate. Love transfers. Yeah. And I remember being fascinated when I first learned the idea that energy isn't going anywhere. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then you learn and you're like, it kind of blows your mind a little bit that like all the energy that we're ever going to need is right here. And it's just about being transferred, and love is no different than that. And so when you get to that place, when finally you got to chuckle when you see something that reminds you, other moments we want to curl back into a ball. Yeah. But there's a lot more smiling and chuckling moments as time passes. It's an incredible notion that like, you don't have to be afraid to love things. People sometimes say they're afraid to love because if you love something, you can lose it. And there is a bravery in that. But if you understand what can come next from it, you don't have to be afraid of losing. You are just that much more present in the love. And you mentioned the Palisades fire. It's no different, right? In those first weeks after the fire, I couldn't tell time. And by the way, no one else could tell time. Yeah. I was getting phone calls at like 2 a.m. I'd pick up and they'd be like, I'm so sorry, I just realized it's 2. And I was like, it's 2? Like none of us knew. We couldn't tell time. We couldn't see up versus down. But we were checking in on each other and we were trying to figure things out. And now, almost a year and a half later, there's an insistence on intentionality. Could we slap it back together and be up and running again sooner? Maybe. But if we don't do this with intentionality, then we will have disrespected the loss. Yes, and that's so important. I'm not okay with that, right? So everything is being done with so much intentionality. Our community is being cared for with so much intentionality. Even the choices we make on our home are being done with different intentionality. I'm not talking about the finishes. Yeah, right. We had a conversation about finishes yesterday. I don't know, stucco, wood, stone. It doesn't really matter. My kids' rooms, which shared spaces, how much of it is communal? These are such intentional thoughts because that part really matters. And so every moment of intentionality that we've given just honors and elevates how important the experience and the love and the space that we created together was. And I think that there's a lot of like autonomy in that. Yeah.
There is. And there's a lot of action behind that. It reminds me a little bit of Rabbi Stephen Leder's book, The Beauty of What Remains, and the idea of loss and destruction and things changing and being in an obliterated place, but there is something beautiful that remains, and how do we retain the essence of that, and how do we have intentionality about what else we do in this obliterated place. And that's really kind of what this podcast is about, is exactly that.
Well, and then one of the things that I notice with the people that get a chance to sit with you and talk about this is, like, when we talk about an obliterated place, when we talk about this feeling of, like you said, with what remains, you can get stuck in the idea that you're the only one in it.
Yes.
But when done right, that's not the case. Our tradition does not expect you to be fine. It doesn't insult you into pretending to be fine, and it doesn't encourage you to pretend so for everyone else's sake. And we fall trap into that a lot. But when we realize that, like, people do understand, or if they don't, we're going to be part of what helps them understand. If we know that the people around us understand that we're holding something, a weight comes off of that other half's expectation, and we can just be present in our pain, present in the moments in which we're growing out of that pain. There's this incredible gift of saying, no one's expecting you to be fine. And this huge weight comes off your shoulders. And then you actually get the chance to notice what's remaining,
right?
And to notice the beautiful parts. But we can only hold so much. And so if we have to carry the weight of the rest of the world's expectation that we're okay. And so it's funny, but, like, that's what makes this so beautiful. The Jewish tradition goes, what?
Yeah.
Like, everyone else needs to show up where you are. And needs to, there's one piece I didn't mention on a Friday night service. A lot of Jews don't even know this, but there's a reason that the beginning of our prayers, our Kabbalat Shabbat, are all joyful songs. They're melodies about joy and celebration. And often we say that those who are in mourning are supposed to avoid celebration, not avoid happiness, avoid celebration. It's always been really odd to me. Is that out of reverence and respect for the people we lost? Is that out of not trying to bring the mood down for those who are celebrating? And I actually think it's to protect you. Don't put yourself in the position to feel that confliction. Of course you're gonna have joy. Of course you're gonna laugh. There was laughter at every funeral because you're remembering the person with such love. But we have this moment in the service where after that last song is done, Lacha Dodi, people stand up and they turn to the back of the room. Well, traditionally in a lot of services, right after that, the mourners walk in. And they come and take place in the community after that first part of joy.
Right.
And it says, like, you are still welcomed here. You are still wanted here. And we want to recognize your presence in the space. And that says, like, oh, I don't have to pretend I'm not a mourner. People know.
Yeah.
So that pressure's off.
These things are unique. We're a very small, little tiny percentage of the population. And I don't know that that others have this kind of structure and intentionality that create these encounters, these places that we're in as grievers, as mourners, that Colin found so helpful, that I found so helpful. I mean, I was, of course, a convert to Judaism, and although I went through a lengthy process to study Judaism for years before I converted, I didn't have the lived experiences of some of these things. So I had been Jewish for 12 years because I converted while I finished my process while I was pregnant with Molly. I had not been through anyone's passing since I had become Jewish. So it was completely unusual to me. I had no idea what was happening. And I, of course, was already in such a complete sense of just, I wasn't even in my body. I was out of my body. But I had no idea what was even happening. It's like there are large groups of people in the house for 7 nights. Our mirrors are covered. Why are the mirrors covered? Like the clothes are ripped. I had no idea what was even going on because I was experiencing it for the first time.
Well, if it makes you feel better, even if it was your 5th time, 10th time, God,
Yeah.
The tradition doesn't tell you. I'm giving you a little behind the scenes right now, right? We don't often say this is why.
Yeah.
Right? We cover the mirrors.
Why do
We'll
we
get
cover
five
the-
different answers.
why do
Some
we cover
people
the
say it's
mirrors?
because seeing the eyes is something to do with the pathway to the soul. Honestly, I think it's because it doesn't matter what you look like this week. Do not freshen up for everyone else.
Yeah.
Right? Honestly, that's what it really
Yeah.
probably came down to. Now, there's going to be rabbinic answers across the board that say other things, because a lot of what Judaism did is it couched the psychological benefit inside of some type of other ritual or reason or understanding
Right.
to take the pressure off of people feeling like, well, I don't need that.
Right.
So they don't even tell you
Yeah, that's
why
amazing.
they do it. They just
Yeah.
embed it so you can learn and learn and learn.
Yeah.
But it isn't until you get this chance to be like, I noticed that it meant something that on the first yurt site, look at how many people came to say Kaddish.
Yeah.
And that community surrounded you. Well, when we say like people should go to services, the real truth is like the part we care about is that people show up together. We use services as a way to gather. And we gather because people heal most when they're together.
Right.
And that's when we can feel the sense of being whole. But if you ask most people, they'll tell you go to services because it's commanded.
Yeah.
Okay, why is it commanded? Because they were trying to create a structure and a civilization that cared for each other. So when you say there's all these gems of our tradition, they don't translate well because we don't even admit that they're gems half the time, which is its own really interesting piece of this and makes the loss in translation profound. I mean, you talked about these last 2 years. Would we have a 6-hour podcast? Maybe we can go into it a little bit, but just to skim the surface of it, we've had a PR problem since the beginning of time, and it's not one that can solve because part of the beauty of our tradition is the depth and layers that until you live in it, you can't understand. I can explain any of these pieces to you, but if you don't get a chance to experience it, it's just nice to hear.
Yeah.
So the rest of the world doesn't understand why we gather or doesn't understand why we do something. I don't know that there's a better way to explain it. It's part of the burden that we have to take on, that we are going to be understood to be misunderstood forever. And that's just what it is. Judaism is an incredibly universal tradition that somehow presents as the opposite.
Right. Yeah.
But it's not. Okay, we have a language you don't understand, but when you look at the language, there's nothing super defining inside of the words we use. The words we use are universally driven. Believe in something greater, connect to community, recognize the blessings right in front of you. These are rules to live by. And so that's always been so funny to me when the world misunderstands Judaism. I think a big part is because A, we have a terrible PR problem. We don't do a good job of conveying otherwise, but B, I don't know that we can. Because the charm of this tradition is that live in it and breathe through it, and then things will happen and things will adjust not because you focused on that very thing, but because you follow the rest of the system. It gave your body, your mind, your physiology the space to go through the rest of the natural shifts.
Right.
And then we honor those natural shifts.
Well, I agree that there's a definite PR problem, and maybe because we on some level know correctly that it can't be solved, we don't try. Like you try. I mean, I think you are out there, and I can see it resonating with a larger and larger audience. Just doing videos on social media and talking about different topics and things like that. There's not a lot of that. There's not a lot of rabbis doing that for sure, and I think it helps people. I think I know non-Jews, having, come from that background myself, are curious about things, and they don't understand certain things, and maybe they can't fully, but they're interested. They're interested, and they want to. What is this Shabbat you guys do? What is this challah you're making? And they have questions. I think a universal one that a lot of folks have is like, what is this idea of Jews being a chosen people? Like,
yeah,
they
really get so conflicted.
People get very confused about this.
I was chosen to take out the trash as a kid, and I didn't celebrate that chosenness once, right? Like chosenness can be a burden. people assume that it means like gold star,
Right.
but we don't have any evidence inside of our tradition of that. We were chosen to carry a tradition, to teach a message, to celebrate our sacred text. I was chosen to do a whole bunch of chores as a kid that I would have loved for them to choose someone else to do. So this idea of chosenness kind of gets misunderstood. The real heartbreak for me is that not only is Judaism universal, it's inviting. There's sects of Judaism. There's components, there's groups of Judaism that today aren't inviting, but every group that today feels closed off, if you go back through history, they closed off after being burned. They closed off after pogrom. They closed off after being attacked or persecuted or hated. But our tradition actually leans the opposite direction of that. Bring other people into your home for Shabbat, into your home for Passover Seder. Welcome anyone into the community. There's no rule against, you can bring anyone to a synagogue. Now, there are other traditions, I'm not going to call out any by name, that I can't even go in their sacred spaces.
Right.
I'm literally not allowed in their sacred spaces. And in a synagogue, anyone's allowed and anyone can be there. And in fact, our sacred word for a synagogue, we have multiple words: house of study, house of prayer, house of worship, house of gathering. These are all different ways that we say synagogue, and everyone's allowed.
If they don't mind the security measures that they have to go through to get in.
That's the heartbreak.
Yeah.
We are a universally welcoming tradition that has been forced into a space where we have to choose between our safety and our welcome.
Yes.
I've suffered different loss in my life. We've already named them: the Palisades fire, loss of loved ones. And as rabbi, I've been side by side and suffered the loss of community members, as we know too well together.
Yes.
But one of the greatest heartbreaks in my life is my children will never know sacred space without security. And I'm not pointing the finger at anyone, and I'm not saying there's one specific cause to it, but that also leads to a PR problem.
Yes.
When you have to choose between some of your core tenets and your safety. And so the burden on the Jewish people is rather high. And you said earlier, like, I don't know how you do it. I am a community member. There's a fabulous teaching that you can't be a rabbi in a town that doesn't have a number of other professions. And when I explain to someone, especially, when someone goes through a conversion, for instance, it's really hard to explain some of these pieces. The first thing I'll say is that we don't do conversion, we do adoption. That's why you get a tribal name. You're adopted into the people. But also, the rabbis teach, about 2,000 years ago, there's a text that says every soul was at Sinai. And when you convert, your soul is just awakened, which means somehow you've always had a Jewish soul.
Yeah.
It just took time to get there.
I know that's true for myself.
And I've seen it with people. I've seen it so deeply. But what's so fascinating to me is if you come from another tradition, you see rabbi, you think clergy. You think clergy, in many faiths, you think conduit to God. Without the clergy, you can't have a direct relationship. You can't do communion. You can't do confession. You can't, whatever it is, conduit to God. They are a sacred embodiment. I would say we have a sacred role. I don't have a sacred embodiment. I tell people I'm a sacred librarian. Like, you come in, you go, I'm really fascinated about this. I go, I've got a book for you. And why don't we study it together?
Right.
I know all the books on the shelf and I'm pumped about all of them.
Yeah.
And you have to take your knowledge and your brilliance and that book. And when we learn together, I am getting as much out of that as you are getting, because the book is what becomes this foundation for us. So I'm a sacred librarian, which means I also watch the same people come in to the library. And they come in different moments in their lives, and they come in with different emotions, and they come in looking for different books. And that's where you get to hold a real relationship, is where when you watch people connect and navigate through different components at different moments in their lives. And so the reduction of that, or the obstacles in that because of security, they're heartbreaking.
Yeah, they really are. And then we also kind of deal with the fact that we're often kind of gaslit about it. The fact that we we must have these security measures, and we're unique in needing them everywhere we go. If we do Shabbat at the beach, we have to be thinking about security. And no other group really is in that same position. And yet people tell us that our experience isn't really happening or invalidated or something. And I think we're all sort of grappling with that, especially our young people in particular, because if we look at statistics, the largest amount of the growing anti-Semitism and Jew hatred is in the younger generations. And so I think it's particularly hard on our young people who are maintaining their Jewish identity, who are proud to be Jewish, who want to have nuanced conversations about topics because that's what they've been taught to do. And they're in this social media reality and facing all of this sort of pressure socially and on campus.
It's funny that you watch these waves and shifts, and that's incredibly true and feels isolating, except for the ones that lean in the other direction. We've had an uptick in wanting to gather together and wanting to do programs, even signing up for classes. I have more high school kids signing up for classes than before. It isn't because the word's out that it's more exciting. I mean, first of all, it's been exciting the whole time, but it's because they need a space where that guard can come down.
Right.
And so it's a double-edged sword, because one of the reasons that Judaism can weather it and has for thousands of years, this is not the first, second, third, fourth, fifth time that we've had this kind of experience with the rest of the world. We lean on community in an incredibly strong way. And these moments help us lean back in. And in the moments where this drops, we're given this choice of if we lean in or lean out. And I honestly say it as a choice. I'm not saying there's a right and a wrong answer, but in the moments where it's tough, leaning in is a very easy safeguard.
We have discouraged social media for our kids and electronic, phones for as long as possible, et cetera. But our son Nate is now 15, so he has Instagram now. And he doesn't really post anything, but in his bio, he's got proud Jew. And we said, that's nice that you put that there. You don't have to in case that's, whatever, but it's nice. It's nice he feels that way and he wants to express it publicly. I think we are definitely in the lean in category,
Sure.
but I know it's not easy. And I think we need more and more opportunities to help people lean in.
Yeah, well, in order to find equilibrium from loss, from you name it, you actually have to proactively lean in. Now, we were lucky. Our community was like an auto lean-in community. I told people I was a shtetl rabbi. I saw as many people at CVS and the farmers market as I did at the services. I saw more people walking to school in the morning than
Me all the time. I saw you every day.
It's that we were so lucky that the choices that we made to live gave us a lean-in space. Yes. And we weather our losses differently because of it, and we weather the turbulence differently because of it. I don't think we realized, for a lot of us, how lucky we were until the fire.
True. And what I've seen and experienced is a real deepening of connection and ties, to the extent I didn't know anybody on my street before. I know them all now really well. And we're all in this process of trying to go home together and helping each other. And it, in the end, is going to make for an incredibly beautiful, strong, connected, renewed community. And I know that's true of Kaye as well.
It is hard to tell someone that they need to take their primary focus and be about leaning in. It's like what we do when we have 5 minutes to think about it. Oh man, wouldn't it be nice if we had more? I think about 10 years from now, there's going to be a happy hour at every single restaurant in the Palisades because everyone just wants to see their friends. Because they moved back intentionally. It's not just a place we raise our kids. It's a place that we decided we want to live life there. Right. So we lean back in. And that's going to have its own ripple effect. And for me, the more experiences that are shared, it's the same way as any other weight. You could pick up a weight or 10 people could pick up the same weight. The weight's getting picked up. Which one's harder? And it's the same way with all of this. Our grief is easier when it's shared. I'm not saying that it should be like, there's a fabulous commercial where a raccoon's eating garbage, like, oh, this is terrible, you got to try it. Like, I'm not encouraging that, like, we got to have everyone join the sadness train.
Right.
But when you have a real community, it's there. And when you mourn, we're mourning with you. We're mourning or we're worried for you or any of that. That's it's so powerful. And I worried a little bit about my kids before the fire, about whether or not they would experience adversity in a way that would shape them. It's such an interesting conundrum as a parent to be like, I want to give my kids all the opportunities in the world, and oh boy, do I hope that they're grounded by the time they get off to college. Like, how do you do both? Like,
because I grew up in school of hard knocks, like, very different from my kids. And I struggle with that. Like, and I hate to be that parent that's like, like, I didn't have any help. I was doing it all myself. I was cooking all my own meals by this time. And it's so different. And I want it to be different for them. But I also want them, and I mean, for my kids, I haven't had to worry that much about adversity because they've gone through my cancer. They've gone through the loss of their sister and now the fire. So it's like, they've definitely been put through their paces. But yes, it's essential that we all as human beings develop that muscle of resilience and coping and finding ways to lean on each other and get through things together.
Well, and you just named what I would consider the most important lesson of the Jewish tradition. We don't waste tragedy.
No.
We don't ask for tragedy. We don't manufacture tragedy. We don't champion or celebrate tragedy. But we don't waste it. And when something devastating happens in our lives, we say, we will do something with this. We have been given the task of this next set of clay, and we're going to do something with it. You would not ask for any of the trials or tribulations that the boys have faced in their lives. But you're not going to waste any of them either. And not wasting it is the ultimate show of respect for the thing that was lost.
Exactly. Yes, that's what we're doing in this podcast.
I would never ask.
Yeah.
I would never ask for something like the fires.
No.
My kids are stronger for it because we don't waste our tragedies.
That's right. We don't waste them. And also we understand and we model ways to live life and coexist with this new reality. Like for me, it's like, this is not going away after a year. This is never going away. What I live with, I am completely changed, and I walk around looking like a normal person, but there is a huge part of me that's just forever in pain and longing, and there's never a time I'm not thinking about Molly and how much I wish she were here, and that's just who I am now. I don't see that ever going away.
And it won't, and there's these reminders, and those are the ones that are sitting in your pocket, and no one else gets to know what ones are there. But if we want to strive for a world in which we can all hold each other with that level of empathy and love, we have to know that everyone's carrying something in their pockets.
That's right. And that's part of my goal with the podcast for sure. And what I appreciate a lot about Judaism is that it recognizes and honors all of this tragedy and loss, and we're not wasting any of it. And at the same time, we're going to break the glass and have an amazing wedding, right? We're going to go and have an amazing, joyous celebration of life. And to me, that is what is, for whatever reason, I think my soul was at Sinai. Probably it was, but also just on a practical level, like I just ended up in a place where somebody like me who's had all of these losses, like one after another, I ended up part of a people who gets that, who like gets, okay, it's like gone through all of these things, and through the example of the Jewish people, I feel like I'm more capable of not just being devastated all the time and actually finding ways to enjoy life again. Like my guest, Colin Campbell, who lost his beautiful children, Ruby and Hart, in a car accident, talks about, they built a home in Joshua Tree that was like kind of their family's dream, and they built this home, and going out there to Joshua Tree is when the accident happened, and they almost canceled the sale after the children were killed in this horrible accident. And then they decided to go ahead and that they needed this as their grief retreat, and they felt connected to their kids there. But as part of it, he has to drive by the scene of where his children were killed every time they go there. And he talked about the fact that they built a pool, and that was his daughter Ruby had picked out the place for the pool, and so they have it. And he mentioned sometimes being in the pool and just feeling the enormous weight of the loss and missing them and longing for them. And other times just wanting to enjoy the pool, wanting to enjoy the weather, and finding a way to hold both of those. And I think that's part of what we are able to do through the Jewish traditions.
I mean, we don't bifurcate our experiences.
Right. Yeah.
We say Kaddish in celebratory moments. When I do a wedding, we so often name the loved ones who were part of building the foundation of home that aren't here anymore. Yeah. We honor them in the celebratory moment. We don't say, no, this is supposed to be happy. Don't bring up anything sad, because we don't see loss only as sad. They're our loved ones, and we bring them into every space with us. And by the way, being allowed to bring them in sometimes is all that we need to then be present in the joy. But when we're told that this is a moment for joy, we can't bring in what's with us every day and every moment, there's a psychological phenomenon to that. That's all you can focus on now.
It's true.
And so we are willing to say, of course you're going to think about it each time you're in the pool. And because you're allowed to, sometimes you'll just enjoy the pool.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you're allowed to, because it's logical, because it's rational, because it's authentic. We're a tradition that celebrates authenticity. I am going through the process too. I'm trying to figure it out too. I'm not done with mourning. I'm in the middle of mourning. And unlike the loss of a loved one, the loss of community is a very different endeavor, because there's this worry about what will be back. When we lose a loved one, the job is to learn how we will live life without them. The loss of community is hard because there's this other weight of like, what will build back? What is going to be in its place?
Right.
We have this great gift where when we lose someone we love, we get to just love them eternally. No one's in their place.
Yeah.
No one ever is going to replace Molly. But instead, you get to focus on all that love, all that memory, all that honor, all that leaning into the way she saw the world. Also, it's a little bit on the side of the fires of like, who is going to move back? Are these new people going to know how much we love this place? Is there going to be a local store the way there was? Yeah. Is there going to be this? Is there going to be that? Are we going to lose the charm? That panic is a totally different burden. And we don't give it the not respect. We don't give it the weight that it deserves. It's a big weight. And so we have to honor that people are not just mourning. They're mourning and they're concerned and they're panicking and they're projecting. And we have to do something to hold that as well. We have to make, we're reopening the synagogue in a couple of weeks, and we know that our role is not just to have services. We're a gravitational pull to pull people back in and say, see, it's still here. We can build it again. We can have that same feeling again. We can go back to celebrating this beautiful little community again. And we know that the weight of our job right now is to pull people back in so that they can see the potential that's still possible. That's a totally different burden.
And it's a heavy one. It's a big one. And I think there's a parallel to the loss of community that so many of us have felt the past 2 years since October 7th. I know for myself and for many of my Jewish friends, we were very involved in social activism. We were always at the marches. We were doing all of the things. And we felt a sudden and very dramatic and obvious silence and lack of community when we were going through something devastating personally and as a people. And I wonder, when you don't have something like the ability to, like Kaye has rebuilt, and it's pulling the people back in and showing everyone, okay, this is the community. What do you do when, in some instances, the community you thought you had wasn't really there, or it's not there, it doesn't want to be there anymore? I feel like there are a lot of us who are in this position of feeling just sort of lost politically, lost from a social point of view, especially those of us. I mean, I just know from my own experience that in the world of, being very active in sort of liberal causes and all of that, it's like a lot of us have just been kind of iced out of those communities unless we are willing to abandon our Jewish identities. And we've seen that in history, haven't we? Where it's like, okay, you can be here as long as you say this, you don't say this, you do this, as long as you're the kind of Jew that we tolerate, which for me as a person just does not work for me in any setting. So I would never be able to do that. But I think it's a real huge kind of existential thing that people are experiencing, especially young people.
It certainly is. And there's this moment of like, where do I belong of the things that I thought I aligned with? Like I see myself being like, I watch certain shows less, and your feed slowly changes and your algorithm slowly changes. And I think the only advice I would have for it is that lean into the underlying values, not the program, not the movement. Go back to why one is drawn to it, because we got into this space where we were somehow given this binary choice when it comes to politics, but we're not binary. We don't have two views on something.
Yes.
It's so much more complex than that. So I think the real idea is to like go back, figure out which values and morals align your visions and align the way you see the world, and then start to focus on that and not the movements. It doesn't, we for so long attached our identity to different movements. What would it be like if we attached our identity to values and we didn't say it has to be with this group or that group? I am a person that believes in justice. I'm a person that believes in equality, and I believe in access to information, and I believe in basic living wages. And I believe, okay, you can lean into all of those and not decide, hey, which of these 4 organizations can I put in my email signature? But for a while, it got easier and easier to just do it that way. And then when this moment happened where we realized, oh, we aren't everything in this category, even if we're 95%,
Yes.
we felt abandoned, but the 95% didn't change. We're not abandoned. We're not abandoned by our principles. We're not abandoned by our morals.
But a lot of the people we thought were our friends and allies have forgotten or maybe never understood about the 95%.
Correct.
In which we still agree.
Correct.
Like we still care about all the things we cared about, and we still want to be part of all of those important things. You know, I've heard you talk about the civil rights movement, and it dovetails with your point that you just made about like leaning into our values. And the reason Jews were at the forefront of the civil rights movement is because we understand what it is to be othered, to be left out, to be a minority that's not receiving full rights or equal treatment or fair treatment. And so we can't abandon those things.
Nope.
But I think the hard part is when we're left out anyway, even though we didn't abandon those.
Well, it requires, if you want the big picture, it requires big patience. We're a very patient tradition. We've been around for thousands of years. We've seen everything happen cyclically.
Yes.
I have a certain level of patience and compassion for the people that are in the wrong, in my opinion, right now. Not trying to change them. I just need to be patient. And I don't let their ill-perceived understanding of me, of what I stand for, of any of the other things. I'm going to stick to my morals and values. And I'm going to be real patient. Because you know what doesn't work at the end of the day? I told you so. In any circumstance, we want to say it so bad, but it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so what I have to do right now is I have to be ready for a society when they cool back off, when they realize that they've been, for some people, they've just been ill-informed, whatever you want to call it, duped, tricked, whatever. I am still going to be here with the same ability to show love, compassion, and collaboration and commonality when they are ready. And that is the biggest, highest road you can take is that. And so that's how it doesn't work every day.
Yes.
That's my goal.
Yes.
Right? Like, I'm not willing to write off half of society. I feel like it once in a while. I might feel like we've been written off by half society, but I'm not willing to write off half society because we need society. But we also need our community. We need our tribe. We need our people. And so the greatest thing we can do is to find the support structure to know that, like, in due time.
Yes.
How are we going to handle it?
I definitely try to focus on the things that I can control, and other people are not one of them. So I stay in that space, and I have so much that I'm trying to do on a daily basis. I mean, my goal is I literally, since we lost Molly, I am living in a different time, perception of time, reality of time, and it's literally the day I am in. Like, I have a very hard time looking even to the end of the week or next week. I just can't. I've been forced by my life circumstances to become a person who lives in the now, like the Eckhart Tolle, like being in the present. I can't bear it otherwise. I cannot bear ruminating too much about the past because it's difficult and painful. I can visit that sometimes, but most of the time I can't be there. And most of the time I can't be in the future either because it's painful. I can't imagine myself. It's like, it's been 5 years. What's it going to be in 5 more? Like, it devastates me. So I just can't do it.
And our tradition says Friday night Shabbat.
Yeah.
Make it a week.
Yes.
Each week.
Yes.
Make it a week of intentionality. Do you know that there's a larger structure? Yeah. Do you need to think about it? No. Make it a week.
And sometimes it's less than a week. I mean, when I was going through cancer treatment, and I know many of my friends who are in treatment now, it's like we're in deep grief. We've lost someone and it's so raw. It's like we're just getting from 1 hour to the next. It's not even a day. So me personally, I'm in the day place. Like, I'm not in a week, I'm in a day, and it's literally just getting from It's like The Pit, if you watch that show. It's like those 24 hours, like I'm just living in one day increments at a time, and I'm asking myself at the end of the day, if I don't have that many days left, because I don't take that for granted ever, not after my experience with my own cancer and losing too many of my friends to breast cancer since my own diagnosis 9 years ago. And then losing Molly, it's like I just am, my eyes are wide open to the fact that like it can just be over anytime. It might be over after today. And so I'm just at the end of the day going, okay, if I don't have that many days left, like, would I be good with this day? Like how I spent this day and what I did with my time and where I spent my energy and my focus. And that's it. Rinse and repeat tomorrow. Like that's all I do, one day to the next to the next. And maybe it'll get from eventually I'll get to one Shabbat to the next.
There's a prayer that you say at the end of our silent blessings, Yehilur Atzon.
Yes.
It translates as, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable, be worthy, be useful. Mm-hmm. Did I waste my words today? Mm-hmm. And we sing that to our kids at night. Mm-hmm. And it's our own adaptation of exactly what you just said. We have a structure for that. Every morning in the morning, you wake up, you say the Shema, and you realize that the things you discover that day are already there. It's about, can you hear them?
Yes.
Can you seek them? Can you recognize them? Not waiting for someone to give us the answers, but us having the ability to find the answers inside of a given day. You say the Shema when you wake up, same words right before you go to bed. That framework of the day for you. For me and for my family, we've added this piece of saying that blessing before bed, because the one thing I want to know is exactly that. Did I waste the day? If this is the gift of the day, did I waste it?
Yeah.
Did I use it well? And asking my kids that, did you waste it? Did you use it? Did you focus? Did you connect to someone? Did you show love in a profound way? Did you do things today that make you proud of the way you acted? And if every single day you can go to bed feeling like I didn't waste my day, then that becomes a really precious gift.
And it's sort of more doable in like bite size, like when you're trying to get through it, it's like just to get through the hour, and then it's like, all right, today, what are we doing today? And sometimes, I mean, I have plenty of days where I'm like, yeah, this one, not a lot. But then also those are times too where, because I'm a person who wants to produce and like achieve and do, and sometimes it's like I need a Shabbat to recalibrate and sit and slow down. And that's also part of what I'm doing with the podcast, because I won't sit down for another hour today. This is it.
Yeah.
And I need it. I need that slowing down, and finding those opportunities and making them intentional, I think helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Before we close, let's talk about if there's anything, because I feel like, and in some ways we can't do anything about this. Like, people are just going to misunderstand us, but I so desperately don't want to be misunderstood. Like, I want people, and I feel like there have got to be people who aren't maliciously misunderstanding, but they're not getting so much about who we are as the Jewish people and about our connection to Israel. Like, if you could help correct or explain something that's misunderstood, like what would it be? What do you think people don't get that they're misunderstanding about us, and we could try to help them better understand?
Well, I guess so. We're booking another hour for this podcast.
Yeah,
now.
We definitely need a part two.
Look, I think that two wishes or goals right off the top.
Yeah.
One, Israel's a complicated place. America's a complicated place. I'm proud to be an American, and I'm not proud of every action that America has taken. I'm not proud of every administration that America has had. I'm not proud of every word that's come out of every leader's mouth. And I can say that was the most broad version I can say. apply that same logic. I'm proud of Israel as a country. I'm proud of the existence of a Jewish state. I'm proud and feel a kinship and a connection and a home and a familiarity to it. And I am not proud of all of its politicians. And I am not proud of all of its policies. And I am not proud of all of its leadership choices and directions it's gone. But I am proud that it exists. And why we can hold that truth for one and not for the other can feel really infuriating. Yeah. And I think it's because we have the gift of knowing we belong in both. And so that part's really tricky. And the other part that's really tricky is, people want to make this huge distinction between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. And we don't have time to get into the full understanding right now.
Yeah.
But they are intertwined. Yeah. Doesn't mean they're the same, but they're intertwined. And we talked a good deal about security earlier. You can't tell me that they're separated with the level of uptick and the level of necessity of our security that's gone up since October 7th. And so you may have opinions or feelings or frustrations with the state of Israel, but those opinions and frustrations are being played out far greater to the Jewish people because we're in the proximity of it.
Yeah.
And so the burden that's been placed on the Jewish people right now is not like, no one expects that I'm responsible for Israel's decision-making, but I'm closer than Israel, so they can show that frustration and anger towards me because I'm here. Yeah. And so it's put the Jewish people in a very uncomfortable and a dangerous at times place because somehow we are the middle line between the thing that's frustrating them, their moral, and the place, what's in between, the Jews. And so I think those two pieces are so important to know. We can get into all the details of it, and there's a lot to get into. But if you hold a group of people accountable for a place, or you forget that you yourself and every American has a relationship to America while not agreeing with everything America's ever done, if you can't have the grace to see or understand those two pieces, then you are inevitably part of the reduction of safety to the Jewish people, and you're part of the alienation that's going on for so many Jewish Americans right now. Not to blame, not anything else, but if you can't understand those two pieces, then you are adding to the issue. And so if there was anything that I could help adjust, it's so that people understand just how intertwined they are and just how unintentional as it was, just how much the Jewish people are right in the middle of people's geopolitical frustration and their own opinions. And that is a really dangerous place to be.
I was heartened to see the recognition of Jewish American Heritage Month through, I think it was Noah Tishby's efforts, and then so disheartened to see when that was recognized by Sesame Street, of all places, the torrent of hate that was unleashed when Sesame Street acknowledged Jewish Americans in the most sweet, beautiful, simple way.
Totally benign. Matzo ball soup.
And it was just like, wow, this is where we are.
People are in pain. And in this moment, by the way, I'm not even talking about the Jewish community. Yeah. The world is in pain. Yeah. And we are ending up in the middle of their pain. And so it's, again, what a grand burden to also know their pain and worry about our own existence at the same time. And that's just where we are.
And it's this thing that's happened throughout history over and over again. And I guess that is the burden of what the Jewish people were chosen for. As my husband says, it's not like we are the chosen people. It's just we were chosen for this particular thing.
Yeah, it's the chores.
And other people are chosen for something else,
correct.
But we were chosen for this. And it's heavy. And I when I converted, the rabbis, I went before 3 rabbis, and they asked me all these questions, and they don't make it easy because I think they want you to understand what you're signing up for. And there was no way that they could have shown me what I was signing up for at that time. And I didn't fully understand it until after October 7th. And what the reality has been like. And we went to Ireland, where my husband's Jewish family has roots. And we went to the Jewish Museum in Dublin, which is this little museum. It's very hard to find. And when you go there, it's like you've got to, they open little tiny window and it's like, who are you? Why are you here? What's your travel? Like, what are your details? I mean, they have to be so careful. And they've got a door that's like a steel reinforced door so people cannot ram the door. I mean, it's just this insane level of security to get into this one little synagogue that exists in Dublin, one little place where, there's literally a book of all the Irish Jews, which we found, our family in there, my husband's father. And it's just like, wow, this is what they meant. And I remember asking the people who volunteer there, who these elderly people who volunteer in this place, I said, are you surprised? Because it was after October 7th that we were there. And Ireland has become, very difficult for the Jews. And they said, no, not at all. No.
It was there. We're what are we chosen for? We're the people of burden. Yeah. And our job is to see the light and see love and see the ability to connect to this world while holding the burden of complex relationships, the burden of loss, the burden of troubled history. We've been persecuted across the world. That's burden. And we are living here sitting knowing that burden. Not everyone could carry that burden and still see light in the world. So our chosenness is not, again, it's not gold star, right? It's that we are a people who know burden and still choose to see the light anyways. And that's a role I'm willing to take on. And that's the role that you experience in those spaces.
Yes.
That's why we perk up when we hear Hebrew.
Yeah.
We're excited.
Yes.
Someone else knows the burden.
Yes.
Right? And it's a sacred obligation.
I think that some people don't recognize the burden, or they deny the burden because Jewish people have been successful at a lot of things. And I would argue that it's because of the burden that, as a person who's dealt with quite a few struggles in my own life, it makes you strong. And in many cases, it is the essential ingredient, if you let it be, to becoming something greater and doing bigger things and achieving more and living a life where at the end of the day you're saying, like, did I make this day count? And holding yourself to that standard and doing something, if you weren't satisfied with the answer, doing something else the next day.
Yeah. And now you have a burden of having to deal with the fact that they don't know that burden.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right. It's that essential ingredient, and it's because we didn't waste our tragedies along the way. We honored them by doing the best we can, by trying to achieve our strongest point of greatness, by caring for our communities. And if people don't understand along the way, I guess that's our burden to bear too.
Yeah. Well, it's a burden that I will continue to bear with honor and great respect and gratitude. And I'm so grateful to be in community with you. And you personally have just been someone who's just always been, no matter what we're going through, someone who is a place that feels safe and calm and loving and like everything's going to be okay. And I know how hard it must be when, as a human being, because we're all human, you're bearing the weight of your own personal loss of home and grief and tragedy, and also being that for so many people like me. And so I'll end as I started, with just recognizing you for being that person not many people could be. So thank you for that.
It is forever an honor to be a part of this community and to be in community with you, and just know that there is strength and love in both those directions.
All right. Well, we're definitely going to need a part two. Most
I'm for it.
definitely. But until then, thank you, Rabbi Daniel Sher. Thank you to all of our guests for tuning in, for joining us today. Please be sure to follow our show and leave a review. Thank you so much. Until next time, I'm your host, Kaye Steinsapir.